I was 32 when the accident happened. Before that, my life felt like one of those glossy magazine spreads. Picture perfect on the outside, maybe a little too perfect. My name's Kevin, and at the time, I had what most people would kill for, a well-paying job in architecture, a beautiful wife who also happened to be a high-profile corporate lawyer, and a daughter who had just turned 5, with the same crooked little smile I used to have at her age. We lived in a sleek, modern home in the suburbs, the kind with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture you're not sure if you can sit on. From the outside, we looked like the dream team. My wife, Erica, had always been sharp. Not just smart, though she was that, with her polished degrees and courtroom presence that could make grown men fold. But sharp, like glass. Beautiful, but you had to be careful how you handled her. We met in college. She was the firebrand in our ethics class, always picking fights with the professor. I was quieter, more methodical, the type to wait until everyone else had spoken before offering a single sentence that cut to the bone. She liked that about me. Said I made silence feel intelligent. She would later use that same line in court to demolish a witness. Our relationship worked, at least for a while. We were both ambitious, both driven, both addicted to late nights and early mornings. Erica's career skyrocketed fast. Associate by 26, partner by 30, and featured in a legal journal before she hit 31. I was no slouch either. I worked my way up at a prestigious architectural firm, designed 2 award-winning buildings, and got asked to lecture at my alma mater. On paper, we were the power couple. But paper burns fast. Erica liked power. She respected strength, admired control, and rewarded results. Love, for her, was conditional. She never said that, of course, but it was in the way she looked at me when I brought home a bonus versus when I had a bad quarter. In the way she rolled her eyes when I mentioned wanting to take a weekend off for a family trip. "You're not salaried for vacations, Kevin," she said once, half joking. Only half. Still, we had our moments. Sunday pancakes with Liam, our daughter. Movie nights where Erica would pretend to hate the Marvel movies, but still quote them days later. She had a way of making you feel like the center of her universe, until you weren't. Then came the accident. It was a rainy Thursday, one of those slick, foggy mornings where everything feels like a bad omen. I was on the freeway heading to a site inspection when a semi-truck jackknifed 3 cars ahead of me. I swerved, but the car behind me didn't. I don't remember much except the sound of metal imploding and a strange sensation of floating before everything went black. When I woke up, my body felt like it had been run through a meat grinder. Broken ribs, a fractured femur, 2 herniated discs, and nerve damage that left my right leg partially numb. The doctors used words like long recovery and physical therapy and permanent mobility issues. My world, once filled with blueprints and deadlines, was suddenly about bedpans and painkillers. Erica visited me in the hospital twice. The first time, she stood near the door like a lawyer deposing a hostile witness. The second time, she brought paperwork. "I think it's time we talk about next steps," she said, placing a manila folder on my tray. I was barely conscious, drooling onto my hospital gown, and she was already negotiating the end of our marriage. "You can't work anymore, Kevin. You know that, right? Architecture is demanding, and I have a firm to run. Liam needs stability." I blinked, trying to focus on her face. "You're leaving me?" She didn't flinch. "I'm making a decision for all of us." I don't know what hurt more, the broken bones or the way she said it. Like I was no longer part of the equation. Like I was a spreadsheet column that no longer added value. Over the next few weeks, it was a blur of hospital lights and legalese. Erica moved out, took Liam with her, told the court that my condition made me an unfit custodial parent. She spun it well, of course, concerned, professional, doing what's best for the child. Her firm helped her push it through fast. She had custody within a month. I got weekend visits and a hollow apology. "She needs stability," she kept saying. "You'll always be her father. But you're not the same man, Kevin." And maybe I wasn't. Maybe the man she married had been crushed under that truck along with my spine. But the part that survived? That part burned. It sat in my gut like a hot coal and whispered, "Remember this." I spent the next year learning how to walk again, learning how to tie my shoes with shaking fingers, learning how to parent from the sidelines. Liam was always the only one who never looked at me like I was broken. She'd waddle into my arms during visitation days and say things like, "You're still taller than me." Like that meant everything was okay. She was the only reason I didn't give up. I never missed a weekend, no matter how bad the pain. And over time, my body hardened again. Maybe not in the same way, but with something deeper. I studied. I built up an online consulting practice from scratch. Architecture had left me behind, but I wasn't done building. Erica remarried 3 years later. A corporate guy. Boring smile. Good hair. Liam didn't talk about him much. I didn't ask. I just kept showing up, quietly rebuilding my life, brick by brick. And then, 10 years after the crash, I got the envelope. Cream-colored, thick paper, gold lettering. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Erica Linwood and Gregory Spence. The ceremony was to be held at a private estate in the Hamptons. Black tie only. I turned the invitation over in my hands. No return address. No personal note. Just a guest list that included Kevin Marshall +1. I almost laughed, but then I saw the +1. And that's when I realized it wasn't a mistake. It was bait. She wanted me to come. She wanted me to see it. To see the mansion, the opulence, the career she'd built without me. To see her step into her real life, the one where I had been a temporary detour. For a moment, I considered tossing it in the trash. But then I looked at the corner of my desk, at a photo of me and Liam from her middle school science fair. She had won first place for a bridge-building model we'd stayed up all night designing. We were both smiling. Not for the camera, at each other. And I knew. I wasn't showing up alone. I wish I could say I tossed that wedding invitation aside and went on with my life like it meant nothing. But I didn't. I stared at it for hours that first night. I even caught myself rereading the embossed letters like there was some hidden meaning tucked between the gold ink and flowery script. Cordially invited. Please. Erica had never done anything cordially in her life. That invitation was a message. A power play. A reminder. Look what I built without you. I didn't respond right away. I didn't tell Liam either. I wanted to wait. Watch. Confirm what I already suspected, that this wasn't just a wedding. It was a victory lap. And Erica wanted me to see her crossing the finish line in heels and designer lace, smug grin intact. In the months leading up to the wedding, things started changing. Little things at first. Erica had always been a bit selective with communication, but now it became strategic. Messages about Liam were increasingly vague and transactional. Liam has a school play next Friday. Let me know if you'll be there. No details. No time. No address. Parent-teacher conferences next week. Again, no specifics. I had to email the school directly to get answers, which only worked half the time because the school had me listed as non-primary guardian. Erica had made sure of that. And if I pushed back, if I so much as hinted at frustration, she'd slide into full-on martyr mode. I'm doing all of this on my own, Kevin. You're lucky I still include you in these things. It was like I had to beg just to be a dad. But I didn't stop showing up. When Liam had her spring recital, I drove 3 hours just to catch the last 20 minutes. Erica didn't even acknowledge me when I slipped into the back row. She just gave me a glance that lasted half a second, long enough to say, "You don't belong here." What she didn't know was that I'd spent the past 2 years slowly rebuilding my finances. My online consulting gig had grown into a small firm. I had 3 junior architects working under me, clients in 5 states, and a reputation for pulling off designs on shoestring budgets with stunning results. Quietly, carefully, I had climbed out of the hole. I didn't flash it around, didn't post on socials, but I was getting there. Liam, meanwhile, had grown into this sharp, observant, quietly sarcastic teen who reminded me of myself more than I was ready for. At 13, she'd already started calling Erica Erica when she was mad, which sent her mother into quiet, seething fits. She has no respect for me, Erica told me once over the phone. She's not a client, I replied. You don't get to bill her for emotional labor. Click. She hung up. That became her new thing. When she didn't like what I said, she'd just end the call. Like a courtroom objection sustained by default. No room for rebuttals. Then came the real slap. Liam called me crying one night. Her voice was shaky, eyes darting off screen during our video call. She told me I can't come to your place for summer. I paused. Who told you that? Mom. She said she's enrolling me in this prep academy all summer. And she already paid. Non-refundable. Did you want to go? No. It sounds awful. And I told her I wanted to stay with you. Of course she did. We'd already made plans. I was going to take her to Colorado to see the mountains, Maybe even take that photography class she kept hinting at. She said, "You wouldn't understand what I need." I felt something clench in my chest. Not just anger. Helplessness. That feeling of standing outside a house you helped build, watching someone else change the locks. I called Erica immediately. "You unilaterally changed summer plans?" "Kevin, I don't need your permission to make educational decisions. I'm her mother. So am I just the check-in parent now? I only get to see her when you decide I've earned it." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Don't be so dramatic. You'll get over it." And that's when it snapped. All the months of biting my tongue. All the years of being treated like a placeholder in my own daughter's life. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I just said, "Not this time." "What does that mean?" she asked, guarded now. "It means you've underestimated me for the last time." She scoffed. "Kevin, this isn't one of your indie projects. This is parenting. Real life. You don't just get to throw a tantrum and have your way. Then let's take it to court." Silence. She hadn't expected that. "You want to challenge custody?" she finally said. "Kevin, I'll bury you. I'm not the same man you left in that hospital bed." She didn't respond. I think she realized she didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't waste time. I contacted a lawyer, one who specialized in parental alienation cases. A week later, we filed a motion to revise custody. Liam was old enough to have a say, and we had records. All the messages, the missed visitations, the enrollment in summer school without my consent. Erica had painted herself into a corner with her arrogance. When she was served, I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. Then she called, rage barely suppressed. "You're doing this now? Before my wedding?" "I didn't set the timing," I said calmly. "You did. Liam needs stability, Kevin. You're just making things worse for her." "No," I said. "You've been making things worse for her for years. I'm just done letting you get away with it." That summer, the judge granted temporary shared custody, pending a full hearing in the fall. Erica was furious, but there was nothing she could do. Liam came to live with me for 6 weeks, and those 6 weeks changed everything. We cooked. We hiked. We binge-watched old sitcoms. I taught her how to make pour-over coffee, even though she hated the taste, just because she liked the ritual. She confided in me in ways she never had before. How Erica pushed her to apply to elite academies she didn't want. How she felt like a trophy kid on display at law firm events. How she missed the sound of silence that wasn't filled with judgment. "She doesn't listen, Dad. She hears me, but she doesn't listen." I nodded. I knew that feeling well. When the summer ended, Liam didn't want to go back. She cried in the car, holding onto the seatbelt like it might anchor her. I promised her we'd fight, that we'd make it right. And then, a week later, another invitation arrived. This one was hand-delivered. A courier. Fancy envelope. Same gold embossed font. Only this time, the invitation had something extra, a handwritten note from Erica. "Since you seem to enjoy disrupting things, I thought you might as well see how real success looks. Bring Liam. If you think she can handle seeing what she missed out on. There will be photographers." Photographers. Of course. Erica didn't want a wedding. She wanted a stage. And we were props in her final act. I stared at that note for a long time. Then I turned to Liam, who was doing homework at the table. "You want to come with me?" I asked. She looked up. "To the wedding?" I nodded. She didn't answer right away. But then she smiled, just a little. That same crooked smile I hadn't seen in a long time. "Yeah," she said. "Let's go see the show." But neither of us were prepared for what would happen when we walked through those gates. Because behind the grandeur and floral arrangements and string quartets, there was something waiting for us. Something neither of us saw coming. And it started the moment I whispered, "Liam, that's your mother," and the crowd turned to stare. The wedding was more of a spectacle than I had anticipated. Picture a mansion that looked like it had been lifted out of a European estate catalog. White stone columns, a wrought iron gate taller than any man, a private garden that could have passed for a botanical museum. Erica always had a taste for grandeur, but this was overkill. Liam stood next to me in a sleek black dress I had helped her pick out. Her hair was pulled back into a loose braid, and she wore a simple silver chain I'd given her when she turned 13. I wore my best tailored suit, dark navy, pressed shirt, polished shoes. I didn't show up to make a scene. I showed up to remind Erica, without saying a word, that she hadn't erased me. We walked in through the side gate, as instructed in the RSVP card, and the moment we stepped onto the cobblestone path, heads began to turn. People whispered behind their flutes of champagne. A few guests recognized me immediately. Former colleagues of Erica's, maybe. Old friends from when we used to host those awful dinner parties where everyone tried to out-career each other. Liam squeezed my hand. "This feels weird," she whispered. "It's supposed to," I said. Erica didn't notice us at first. She was too busy posing with her groom near the marble staircase that led into the garden. Photographers buzzed around them like flies, snapping from every angle. She wore a custom gown, naturally, sleek, minimalist, sleeveless. She looked like the cover of a bridal magazine, and I'll admit, for half a second, I remembered why I fell in love with her. But then I remembered everything else. When she did see us, her smile froze. Not vanished, just froze, mid-expression, like a computer screen buffering. Her eyes scanned Liam, who looked poised and beautiful in a way Erica couldn't control, and then flicked to me. I gave her a nod. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to say, "Yes, I came. And I brought the one thing you couldn't fully take from me." Erica approached slowly, her fiancé trailing behind, clearly uncomfortable. Her heels clicked against the stones like a metronome of tension. When she stopped a few feet away, she smiled. Too wide, too sharp. "Kevin," she said, voice syrupy. "You actually came. You invited me." I replied, keeping my tone even. "And Liam," she added, glancing at our daughter. "I'm surprised you agreed to come, sweetheart." Liam said nothing. She looked at her mother with that same unreadable expression I'd worn in courtrooms and conference rooms for years. "We didn't want to miss your big day," I said. Erica laughed softly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "How generous of you." Her fiancé, Gregory, I think, extended a hand to me. "Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot." I shook it. "Likewise." We left it at that. No drama. No confrontation. But something had shifted. Erica looked rattled. Uncertain. Like a chess player whose opening gambit had been countered faster than expected. The rest of the evening blurred by. We stayed for the ceremony, which was as sterile and perfect as a courtroom deposition. I watched Erica recite her vows with mechanical grace, each word measured and polished. Liam didn't say a word the whole time. At the reception, we stayed just long enough for Liam to grab a cupcake and snap a photo with a friend she hadn't seen in a while. Then we left. No goodbye, no scene, just a silent exit through the same side gate. But the damage was done. Erica had wanted to parade her success. Instead, we turned it into a mirror. That's when things took a turn. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from Erica's lawyers. She was petitioning to revise custody again, this time claiming I was emotionally manipulating Liam and creating a hostile environment. Her words were clinical, but the intent was personal. She wanted to punish me for showing up, for reminding her that I still mattered. The court didn't buy it. In fact, they scheduled a full review hearing and requested Liam's presence. Erica had overplayed her hand, but that didn't stop the fallout. Liam came back from school one day pale and shaking. She'd been called into the guidance counselor's office because someone, an anonymous, concerned party, had reported that she was being pressured to reject her primary caregiver. She knew it was Erica. So did I? But we couldn't prove it. "I hate her," Liam said through gritted teeth that night. "I hate what she does to me." I wanted to tell her that hate would only give Erica more power. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I hated her too. The next few months were the darkest I've known. My business took a hit when a few major clients suddenly backed out. One of them, a legal firm, had ties to Erica's circle. Coincidence? Maybe. But I doubted it. Liam started therapy. I insisted. She needed a place to unload everything she was bottling up. But the sessions dug up things I wasn't ready for either. Guilt. Regret. Moments I'd missed in her life because I had been too broken to fight harder. One night, I found her sitting on the porch in the rain, clutching the old silver chain I gave her. "She acts like you're just temporary," she whispered. "Like she gets to edit you out." My voice cracked when I answered. "She doesn't get to define who I am." That was rock bottom. Not the accident. Not the hospital. Not even the divorce. It was sitting in the dark with my daughter, realizing that the war Erica started was affecting more than just me. And I had to be better. Stronger. Not just for myself. For Liam. So I rebuilt. Again. I restructured the firm, took on smaller projects that I could control directly, and leaned into what made my designs different. Honesty. Raw. Practical, sustainable architecture. I wasn't chasing awards anymore. I was chasing purpose. I started speaking at youth centers, talking about recovery, about losing everything and finding a way back. One of those talks landed me a new client, an organization that built transitional housing for injured veterans. They didn't care about my past. They cared about my vision. My firm grew. Slowly, but it grew. Liam flourished too. Her grades climbed. Her confidence returned. She even started mentoring younger girls in her photography club. Every time I saw her lift someone up, I saw a piece of myself in her, and I realized Erica hadn't won. She'd lost something she could never buy back. Our custody hearing came up just before Liam's 15th birthday. In court, Erica tried her usual tactics: calculated charm, legal buzzwords, passive-aggressive comments masked as concern. But this time, the judge wasn't impressed. And neither was Liam. When asked where she wanted to live primarily, Liam stood up, took a breath, and said, "With my dad. He listens." That was the moment Erica cracked. For the first time, she didn't have a rebuttal. Just a twitch in her jaw and a slight shake in her hand. The judge granted me primary custody. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled. That summer, Liam and I traveled. Nothing extravagant. Just a road trip, old motels, greasy diners, sunrise hikes. We didn't talk about Erica. We didn't need to. And one night, somewhere in Utah, while stargazing from the roof of our car, Liam looked over at me and said, "You know, I don't feel broken anymore." Neither did I. But Erica wasn't done. She never is. Because just when we thought things had finally quieted down, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Liam's name. And a court summons. To contest the custody ruling. Again, I stared at it for a long time, the desert wind rattling the edges. That night in Utah, after reading the summons under a sky full of stars, I didn't sleep. I just laid there in the stiff motel bed while Liam breathed softly in the next room. The kind of peaceful rhythm you only get when you feel safe. And I kept staring at the paper in my hands. Erica wasn't done. After losing custody, after seeing her daughter finally pick me over the illusion she tried to maintain, she was trying to rip it all apart again. Not because she missed Liam, not because she suddenly wanted to be a better mother, but because she couldn't stand to lose. That was the part of her that never changed. In her mind, life was a courtroom. Everything was either a win or a loss. And this wasn't about custody. It was about control. I stared at the paper until the corners curled under my fingertips, and I realized something that I hadn't fully accepted until now. Erica wasn't going to stop until I made her stop. She had power, resources, connections, but I had something else. I had the truth. And finally, after all these years, I had people who could help me use it. When we got back from the trip, the first thing I did was call Marcus. We hadn't spoken in years, not since Erica and I divorced, and she'd made sure I lost contact with most of the mutual friends we had during our marriage. But Marcus, he had always been decent. A little reserved, maybe, but fair. And more importantly, he had once been Erica's colleague. I didn't launch into a monologue. I just asked him for coffee. He showed up at the little cafe near my office wearing the same gray trench coat he'd worn in law school and looked at me like he wasn't sure if we were about to catch up or if I was going to ask for a kidney. "She's coming after Liam again," I said as soon as we sat down. He didn't blink, just stirred his coffee slowly. "I figured she might," he said finally. "She's been off lately." I raised an eyebrow. "Off how?" He hesitated, then leaned in. "She's been bragging around the firm, saying she's going to reclaim her narrative. She thinks getting Liam back will validate something. She wants to look like the parent who saved her daughter from your manipulation." Her words, not mine. I nodded slowly. "I need to hit her where it hurts." Marcus tilted his head. "You don't mean?" "I'm not out for blood," I said. "I'm out for finality. I want this to end. Permanently." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "You know she's been using firm resources for personal stuff, right? Had a paralegal draft your custody response. I overheard her bragging about it." I felt my jaw tighten. That was illegal, but very on-brand. "Can you prove it?" I asked. "Not alone," he replied. "But I might know someone who can." That someone turned out to be a junior associate named Denise. Young, hungry, and disillusioned. Apparently, Erica had been exploiting her for months, having her handle personal emails, draft legal threats, even research judges for her own cases. Denise had receipts. Literally. Time logs. Emails. Memos with Erica's initials requesting personal file support. I met her in a quiet corner booth of a Thai place downtown. She looked nervous, clutching her tablet like a lifeline. I know I'm risking my job, she said. But she's not who they think she is. I nodded. You're not alone. She slid the tablet across the table and tapped the screen. This is from the day after your court hearing. She had me draft a formal complaint against the judge. She was furious. She wanted him disqualified from any future cases involving her. I exhaled slowly. And she used firm resources for all of this. Yep. On the clock. Using their systems. She even billed her time to a client account by mistake once. That was it. That was the thread I could pull. But it wasn't enough to just expose her. Erica had spent years building her image. She'd buried anything that didn't fit. If I wanted this to stick, I needed more than just paperwork. I needed stories. I needed people. I started reaching out. Old coworkers. Friends from college. A few people she'd burned over the years. There were plenty, once I started digging. I didn't frame it as revenge. I framed it as closure. One woman, Candace, used to work as Erica's assistant during her first year as partner. She'd left the firm suddenly, and I'd never known why. Erica always said she wasn't a good fit. But when I got her on the phone, the truth came spilling out like poison. She screamed at me during a Christmas party, Candace said. Called me incompetent in front of clients because I forgot to bring her coat. That was my last straw. But she made it impossible to get a reference. Said I was insubordinate on my exit form. Another, a man named Troy, told me how Erica had sabotaged his pitch to a high-profile client just because he got more attention during a firm gala. She leaked internal memos to make him look negligent. He was fired a month later. And then there was Anthony. He was a quiet, soft-spoken paralegal who had worked under Erica for 3 years. He told me about nights he'd stayed at the office until 2 a.m. because Erica insisted he reformat her briefs to match a font she invented herself. About how she'd scold him for being too beta in meetings. About how she once docked his hours because she didn't like his tone. Each story was like a shard of glass. Individually sharp, but together, they could tear through anything. I compiled them, documented everything, created a private digital folder with timestamps, email logs, testimonies, even screenshots of Erica's private social media posts where she'd boast about manipulating the court system. And then I did something Erica would never expect. I gave it to Liam. She was 15 now, old enough to understand what was happening, old enough to have a voice. And I trusted her. She sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the files, her expression slowly shifting from confusion to realization to something cold and quiet. She doesn't love me, she said finally. She just wants to win. I didn't have to say anything. Liam stood up and walked over to the fridge. She grabbed the calendar and crossed out the date of the upcoming court hearing. She's not going to get what she wants, she said. We didn't just want to win the case. We wanted to make sure she couldn't come back again. So I went further. I contacted a journalist. A woman named Elise who had once written a profile on Erica in a regional business magazine. We met at a rooftop bar, and I told her everything. At first, she was skeptical. Erica was still seen as a rising star in legal circles. But then I showed her the folder, the documentation, the names, the timelines. When she saw the overlap between Erica's public speeches about integrity in the legal system and the internal emails asking Denise to ghostwrite a complaint against a judge, she sat back in her chair and just shook her head. She really thought she'd never get caught. She still doesn't, I said. Elise agreed to dig, not just into the firm, but into Erica's court filings, financial records, social media, everything. She had sources, people willing to talk, now that the cracks were showing. While she investigated, I went to my lawyer and filed for something Erica would never expect. Full termination of her custodial rights, with cause. Using every shred of evidence we had. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Liam. About the damage Erica had caused. About the toxic grip she kept trying to maintain. We planned everything. Mapped out our timeline. Prepared statements. Gathered expert testimonies on the psychological toll of parental manipulation. And then we waited. Erica thought she was walking into a standard custody appeal. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have imagined, was that the moment she walked into that courtroom, she was walking straight into a spotlight. Because the day before the hearing, Elise published her article. It was titled, "The Lawyer Who Played Both Sides: How Erica Linwood's Quest for Perfection Unraveled the Truth." It trended in under 4 hours. And the moment Erica saw it, everything began to crack. I was already awake the morning the article went live. I hadn't really slept the night before, Too much adrenaline, too much silence buzzing around the kitchen like static. Liam came down the stairs slowly, still half wrapped in her blanket. She didn't say a word at first, just looked at me, then at the open laptop on the counter. The headline was bold, unflinching. The subheading underneath cut even deeper. Using courtrooms like a stage and colleagues like props, a decorated attorney's long history of manipulation, intimidation, and blurred ethical lines. Liam sat down next to me. She saw it, right? I nodded. She saw it. The article wasn't sensational. It didn't have to be. It was clinical, measured, methodical, and absolutely devastating. Elise had done her job well. It began with Erica's rapid rise through the legal world, her appearances on panels and awards from regional bar associations. Then it peeled back the polish, layer by layer. Anonymous but heavily substantiated testimonies. Screenshots. Timelines. Quotes from professional contacts who'd been burned. Most damning of all was a quietly included confirmation from Denise, who had formally submitted her resignation the night before the article dropped, along with an affidavit. That meant the bar would be involved now. And the timing? Not a coincidence. The custody hearing was set for 10 a.m. Erica's downfall would happen in real time, on the very stage she tried to dominate. By the time we walked into the courthouse, the energy had shifted. The usual brisk pace of clerks and attorneys was punctuated with whispers, people staring just a beat too long, phones held at awkward angles as if checking something or someone online. Even the bailiff glanced up when Erica entered. She looked composed on the outside, as always, clean bun, tailored suit, heels clicking with precision, but I could see it. The crack behind her eyes. Her jaw was clenched just a little too tight. Her gaze flickered around the hallway like she was scanning for fire. She barely looked at me, didn't even acknowledge Liam, just brushed past us and walked into the courtroom like she was trying to outrun gravity. It didn't work. The judge, the same one who had ruled in my favor months earlier, opened the hearing with standard procedure. Erica's lawyer, a sharp but visibly uncomfortable woman named Angela, requested a continuance due to unforeseen reputational circumstances. The judge raised an eyebrow. Are you referring to the article published this morning? Angela nodded. I've read it, the judge said flatly. And unless you can prove it's categorically false, we're proceeding. Angela opened her mouth, then closed it. Erica didn't say a word, but her knuckles were bone white around the handle of her briefcase. My lawyer, Miriam, a quiet powerhouse of a woman who had spent most of her life defending fathers against stacked systems, leaned toward me and whispered, "She's bleeding. Don't blink." What followed was the most surreal 3 hours of my life. Miriam presented everything with the calm of a surgeon. She didn't gloat, didn't dramatize, just laid out the facts, the misuses of firm resources, the efforts to manipulate school administrators and therapists, the systematic alienation tactics, the patterns of intimidation toward colleagues and subordinates. She submitted Elise's article as supplemental evidence, supported by affidavits and declarations from multiple witnesses, all pre-approved. Then she brought up the kicker, a financial audit. 3 months earlier, I had quietly hired a forensic accountant to comb through Erica's public business dealings. I'd suspected, based on things Marcus and others had said, that Erica was moving money between accounts to inflate her net worth for vanity rankings, and possibly committing billing fraud. The audit confirmed it. She had double-billed 3 clients. One of them, a corporate entity she used to love flaunting on LinkedIn, had already begun internal review. Another had sent a cease and desist after Elise reached out for comment. When that part hit the court record, Erica visibly flinched. Still, she tried to recover. She requested to make a personal statement. The judge allowed it. She stood, cleared her throat, and launched into a carefully composed monologue about parental rights and emotional manipulation and how she had always acted in the best interests of her daughter. She even got a little choked up near the end, as if summoning tears from muscle memory. But Liam didn't look at her once. When it was our turn, the judge asked Liam if she wished to speak. She stood slowly, walked up to the front, looked the judge in the eye, and she said, "My mother doesn't see me. She sees a product, something to polish and show off. My dad sees me. He hears me. I feel safe with him." There was silence after that. Not a courtroom silence. A moment. You could feel it. The weight of a child finally being heard. The judge called a recess. During the break, Erica tried to approach Liam in the hallway. "You don't understand what you're doing," she hissed. "You're being manipulated." Liam stepped back, her voice steady. "You lost me a long time ago. You just didn't notice." That was the last thing Erica ever said to her face-to-face. When we returned to the courtroom, the judge delivered the verdict. Full custody awarded to Kevin Marshall. All prior visitation arrangements for Erica Linwood were to be suspended indefinitely, pending investigation. An official referral was being made to the state bar regarding ethics violations, and the court formally cautioned Erica against further attempts at indirect communication. That final one stung the most. A polite way of saying, "Stay away from your daughter. You've done enough." She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stood there, stunned, while the room turned to salt around her. Outside, Elise waited with her camera crew. She didn't need to ask for a statement. The look on Erica's face said everything. By evening, the firm Erica had once called home had suspended her with pay. By the end of the week, they issued a public statement. "We take allegations of professional misconduct seriously. Ms. Linwood is no longer affiliated with this firm." More stories came out. A former paralegal filed a formal complaint. A law school student who interned under her posted a thread that went viral. #Linwood Legacy began trending, not for her brilliance, but for everything she buried on the way up. Her world, built brick by brick out of ego and intimidation, crumbled in slow motion. As for Liam and me, we moved. Not far, just enough to start fresh. A small craftsman house with a messy garden and creaky stairs. I let her paint her room whatever color she wanted. She picked deep green and filled the walls with photos she'd taken during our road trip. She started writing too. Quiet poems. Some about healing, some about hurt, but all of them honest. I expanded the firm, brought on 2 new associates, launched a mentorship program for young designers who couldn't afford traditional internships. Liam helped me build the website. We added a tab called Second Chances. One night, a few months after everything settled, she handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photo. Me and her, on the roof of that beat-up rental car in Utah. Underneath, in her messy handwriting, it read, "You gave me back my voice." I kept it in my wallet. I never heard from Erica again. Last I checked, her law license was suspended pending further review. Some speculated she'd leave the state, maybe try to reinvent herself somewhere new. Let her. Because some people build kingdoms. Others build walls. And some of us, we rebuild. From the ground up. With steel in our spines. And fire in our hearts.